Hello again to all of you geeks all over the world. We love that you're constantly seeking to increase your personal EWM knowledge stack, and Hendrik is truly grateful to have you here, spending your valuable time on his videos. So, let's not waste any more time but jump to the content part right away. Make sure to hit subscribe to stay informed about future video releases. Hendrik, over to you. Happy learning!
Hello and a very warm welcome to a new video of my channel, where we tackle different topics in and around SAP EWM. With this video, I would like to reveal one of the core features and frameworks of SAP EWM. With this video, I would like to talk about the condition record determination, especially in the context of the post-processing framework. So what we will be looking at is the question, or the answer to the question, how we actually get, from a technical perspective, from an existing condition record to a PPF action which is scheduled, started and attached to an object in SAP EWM. So as a rough agenda, as a rough summary of the questions that I will be answering, we will start with the question where EWM actually calls a condition record determination, like from technical perspective, and this with a focus on the post-processing framework. And the second thing where I would like to go into detail a little bit is the question how you can include new fields into the condition tables, use those in condition records, and evaluate the content as part of the schedule or start condition. And the last step that we would look at then actually how the object that we are looking at, so a delivery or HU or PI document or whatever, is actually later, so the specific object, how this is then compared with the condition record in order to decide whether something should be scheduled or started based on the object that we are evaluating during runtime. I drawed a rough overview about what we are doing, and this rough overview, we will come back to this at different places within the next 20 minutes. This all starts with a trigger for an action. So a specific object is evaluated because it is changed. For example, a delivery document is being created or changed, or an HU changes its state, and in this context, EWM standard goes through the action profile which is assigned to the object and evaluates each action within the profile. And at the very end, we have an action which is scheduled or not. And we will go through the whole flow step by step. You do see already now that I expect at least a rough pre-knowledge about what the post-processing framework is. It will be a bit technical in this video. If you want to get a high-level introduction into PPF, if you don't know what PPF is at all, I would recommend to have a look at this video here, which I will link so you get a basic introduction. For now, we will jump into the first part of the video where we look into details, which is the question where EWM actually calls a condition record determination. And we will look at the PPF, so the post-processing framework, only within this video. Having said that, SAP itself, of course, uses a condition record technique and determination also at other places. We will focus solely on the PPF here. So the condition for a given action to schedule or start it is implemented as part of a body. So as I said, we change an object, we go through the action profile, we check each and every action step by step, and for each action we check, should it be scheduled, should it be started. And this check technically happens as part of implementations for those two bodies, and eval sched_cont PPF and eval start_cont PPF. So whenever an action is evaluated, we run through an implementation of this body, and this is not only true for Z schedule conditions or custom enhancement, but also for standard conditions. So if you look in the system, for example, the release which I had at hand here, you could find almost 100 implementations of the body for the schedule condition. So even all these standard schedule conditions which you get along with the standard action when you implement SAP EWM are also using implementations of this body in order to realize the logic. To make it a bit easier for you to follow me within the next minutes, I thought we would just take one example from a practical context that you will probably all know, and I took an inbound delivery as our object now, and the PPF action that we are looking at is the automatic goods receipt posting. So we have a delivery object along with one action which is attached to the delivery and posting goods receipt. And there is a schedule condition is attached to the action, and this schedule condition then decides whether this action should be executed, so whether the goods receipt posting should happen in this context. And what you find when you configure the PPF action in transaction SPPF CADM is a tab for the schedule condition for the given action, and in this tab you have a filter. It doesn't say filter here, but at the end, technically, this term here, so this string is a filter for the implementation of the body for the schedule condition. And in this context here, we are looking at an example from EWM standard, implementing class SEWM CL IM DLV conf SC is the one which is evaluating the schedule condition for the delivery-based PPF action, in this example, the one for the goods receipt posting. You can use it for your own PPF actions in the same way. It decides whether the action is scheduled or not. And in this context, to make the decision whether an action should be scheduled or not, now this method is evaluating the condition records. And here we are at the actual core of this video. So how does EWM make use of condition records in the context of scheduling or starting a condition? And the whole magic to read, first of all, read the condition technique customizing, and then read the records, read the condition records. It's all happening in the evaluate method of this class that I just mentioned, CL, DLV, PPF, conf. Here's a method which is called evaluate, and we will now jump into a deep dive and look at the technical details of the implementation of this method. SAP gives us a nice summary at the beginning of the method. I will not read it out for you. You can pause here and read it if you want. The most important thing is that the main objective of the method is to fill the return variable, the RV_RC, and this return variable decides whether the action should be scheduled or not. So if the method finds condition records which match, so where the content matches to the object that we are evaluating, then the variable is set to to 0, so valid condition record found. And if not, if for any reason we could not even read the condition records or we did not find a record, the result of this variable will be different from 0. So it might be 1, 2, 3, or 4. The value of the variable will subsequently then fill the return variable of the body for the schedule condition itself. So that is then this EPRC variable, which inherits the result of the RVRC and the evaluate method, and then that basically tells the PPF, so the overlying framework, whether the condition is fulfilled or not. So now we actually need to read the customizing as a precondition that we can read condition records and compare the value from the condition records with the objects. So what is the important customizing in this context? That's pretty simple. First of all, we need to find a determination procedure, especially here in the context of the delivery object. There is a determination procedure is assigned to the document type. Then there are condition types assigned to the determination procedure. And we need those condition types in order to determine the access sequences. And the access sequence, in turn, then carry the condition tables, and the condition tables have the relevant fields, the ones which we need to fill with content in order to compare then the object with the condition record itself. There are a lot of details here, so I think it makes sense to give you a hint that on my website, WMexperts.online, you'll also find a blog with all those details. So it's not required that you pause the screen here every 20 seconds just to write down the details. So if you want to get everything in a written form, feel free to visit the website. Feel free to copy paste everything and use it in your projects or for your training personally or your team. I'm happy if somebody finds use of it. So here's the customizing where you find all these stuff. It is pretty simple. You just go through all the nodes and then you're set, and you should have covered everything that you need. I will not go into detail right now, just a couple of screenshots. Here on the upper left, you will find the condition types which are assigned to the determination procedure, which I said you attach directly to the object type in customizing, and these condition types carry the access sequences, and the access sequences in turn here on the right side, they have the condition tables and the fields assigned to it. So how do we actually then compare the object with the condition record? Because the condition record has specific values for specific fields. Let's say my condition record should schedule actions only for specific delivery types, or only for specific partners or so. And then my object on the other side, during runtime, different objects, so different deliveries have different types, different partners, different header and item data. And now I need to compare the object with the condition record. So I need to get the information about the object at first. And this is all happening in the method create requests. We search, or we determine the data for the fields which are relevant or marked as relevant as part of our condition record, condition technique customizing. And EWM standard helps us here. And EWM standard, at least in the context of the delivery objects, it determines for us at least the type and category of the delivery warehouse number, the partners, so the location, the means of transport, the door, goods movement bin, and the statuses. And if you need anything else, being it from the standard condition table, respectively from the standard field catalog, the field catalog holds the fields which you can assign to a condition table. If you need something else from there, then you need to include your own logic to determine the data about the object. I will come to this within the next slide, because we will also dive a little bit deeper into the usage of Z fields. Before I do that, just one important remark. There is a difference between the calculation of statuses when you take the schedule condition or the start condition. Now, the schedule condition evaluates the statuses during runtime based on the transient data about the object, so based on the information that SAP has in the memory. And the start condition always looks at the persistent data on the database. Once the process is completed and the data is written on the database, it evaluates this data. That means the usage of statuses in the context of schedule condition is kind of a dangerous thing, because EWM does not always have all necessary data in the memory during runtime in order to evaluate specific statuses. So you might be faced with a situation where EWM calculates statuses in a wrong way in the context of the schedule condition. So if you really need to use those statuses, you might want to think about using start conditions in addition to this, or at least make a detailed analysis whether the schedule condition is the right place to use them. I will add a node, a number for node, subnode, in the video description as well as in the blog post, which has a very detailed description and recommendation about the usage of statuses in the schedule and start condition in the context of PPF actions. So if this is applicable to you, you should have a look at this, to you or your project, let's say. I showed you the class and the method which collects the data for delivery objects. Here is a slide with an overview about the methods, function modules, and so on, where data is collected for different objects. So, for example, for handling units, there is a specific function module which evaluates the condition, and this function module directly determines the search fields and fills the application data. Yeah, so we are still just talking about how do we actually get the details about the given object in order to compare it with the condition record. And I just wanted to give you one slide with an overview here about the technical objects which are fulfilling this task. And they have this function module here for the HU. For the PI, it's the interface method of the body for the evaluation directly determining the data. And for where's orders, there's again one function module doing this job. Want to skip this slide? You just have it for your records. So I already mentioned it might be required that even from the standard field catalog, you need to add logic in order to derive data about the object and use the fields from the standard field catalog in your condition records. Yeah, I showed you the list of, let's say, 10 fields, for example, for delivery objects, where the standard is doing this job, but there are lots of other fields which are part of the field catalog, but which are not evaluated and filled during runtime. Yeah, so you add a field in the condition record, you assume that your object is then compared based on this field with the condition record, but EWM is just not doing anything here and expect you to fill the data and derive the data about the object during runtime so that it can be compared with the condition record. And of course, obviously, if you add Z fields to the condition tables, then you need to take care to provide the data about the object, which should then be compared with this Z field in the condition record. And this is happening right here in our process flow. There is a body, and this body is called during the evaluation and the collection of data that the standard is doing anyhow, and then you can here add your own logic, and you see this here, it's being called right after the create request method, which I explained before. And you see here this body DLV PPF conf that's specific for the delivery, that determines delivery data for user-defined condition record fields. So user-defined in terms of really Z fields plus fields which the standard is not filling out of the box. Changing the LT request table here so that the request table holds information about the object, and if you have a Z field, then this LT request table does not have the data at this point in time, but you can then fill it as part of the body. So the interface method here, the method here calls this body then. And here also there's a node which I added here to the bottom of the slide. This node has a standard implementation of this body and shows how to implement logic to fill Z fields here. The body on the previous slide has corresponding bodies then also for the HU, PI and WO related PPF actions, and those bodies are listed here for you also, just for the records. So we are coming closer to an end. We have now, just to roll it up again, we have triggered an action. We found an action for which we want to evaluate a schedule condition. We see, okay, we want to make use of the condition record here. So we need to collect data about our object in order to compare it with the condition records. We then call the body because we might want to add some data about the objects in order to make use of Z fields, or fields that the standard is not filling. And now we actually read the condition records. And this reading of the condition records is then called here from method get cont rec. And we hand over all kind of data that we collected before. So everything related to the object, of course, but also the condition technique customizing and the tables with the field names, which we also derived from the customizing. And then there is one EWM independent function module, which is called IPCCT CNF determine multi. And this is used to read condition records, not only in the EWM module, but all in different other areas using the condition technique. And this is then on a technical level comparing the data that we provided with the condition records in the database. And this returns one table, LT result, and this table then holds the data about the condition records, and based on this table we can then set the return variables that I mentioned before to either schedule the action or not. I don't want to go into detail into this function module, like how it reads and the condition record from the database. That's not too important to understand here, but the important thing is that it returns a table with the result. Then we evaluate this result table, whether we have something in there that matches or not. And based on the processing of this LT result table, we then set the return variable of the evaluate method, and the evaluate method then subsequently sets the EPRC variable in the interface method of the implementing class for the schedule or start condition body. And this then is the final signal for the post-processing framework to schedule the action, to attach it to the object or not. So if you go to our example with the delivery that I showed you up front and the PPF action with the goods receipt posting, and we want to say, okay, whenever a delivery with type ABC is created, I want to do the goods receipt posting automatically. Then there would be one condition record with delivery type ABC. We would go through the whole flow that I showed you. The function module would at the end return the condition record in the LT result table, and based on the evaluation of this table we would set the return variable of the evaluate method and the body to 0. That means the action should be scheduled, and then when you look at the delivery you'll see the PPF action attached to the delivery, and if there is no start condition it will be executed right away and the goods receipt will be posted. And if there is a start condition, it will go through the same logic and the same approach again, and then the start condition has also the possibility to stop the action from being executed or not. But the approach is totally the same, and especially the evaluation of condition records is the same. And this pretty much sums it up, what I wanted to show you with this video. We started with the trigger of an evaluation for a PPF action, either scheduling or starting, and we end with a decision, yes or no, based on the evaluation of condition records. And of course you can set up schedule condition and start conditions without using condition records at all. Then this part here would simply be replaced by some Z coding that you implement and decide whether the return variable should be set to 0 or any other value, so yes or no. But the objective of this video was really to show you the usage of condition records in the context of the post-processing framework. I hope that you have now a pretty comprehensive collection of all the technical details. You can copy it from the blog. I hope that you can learn something. I hope a lot that you are looking forward to the next video, and subscribe to my channel to avoid missing that one. And apart from that, I wish you happy learning and see you next time.